I like Halo 5. It's not a very common opinion among the Halo community, but it's the one I'm stuck with. In the past, I've struggled to make an argument for Halo 5 on account of its numerous problems, so I figured the best way to articulate myself is to make a proper video, force myself to think about this as it were. In a previous video, I ranked Halo 5 as my 5th favourite Halo game, which is right in the middle. And during that video, I may have gotten a little bit insulty towards certain members of the Halo community. It would have been a huge controversy as all the 12-year-old fanboys shouted, "Where's our Chief? We want Chief back!" Wah! Well, I would never take back my words. I do think I may have been a little bit mean in my interpretation. One of my goals in this video will be expanding on this viewpoint a little more. But first I have some qualifiers. Number 1, I'm an ex-Halo fanboy. I grew up on Halo. Halo 3 was probably the first game I ever fully got into, closely followed by Halo Reach. There was a time when I considered it to be my favourite franchise, and I thought it could do no wrong. That viewpoint is now past, but I think it's important to acknowledge any biases I may have. However, I think it's clear that that viewpoint faded because, number 2, I don't like Halo 4. No doubt I could make a whole video talking about my problems with Halo 4, and I may do that one day. For now, let's just summarise by saying I didn't enjoy playing it, or any of the narrative threads it started. I will touch on that a little bit because I know that's what a lot of people don't like about Halo 5. Number 3, I had no interest in Halo 5 before it came out. Like I said, I didn't like Halo 4, and the Master Chief Collection was a little bit of a mess. In the lead up to Halo 5, I had lost almost all interest in the franchise, and because of that, I pretty much ignored all of the marketing. I knew that there was a new character called Locke, and that he was hunting Master Chief for some reason. That's pretty much it, and I think it's important to note because the marketing for this game was completely wrong, and is another reason why many people don't like the game. Number 4, I've only played the games. I've never delved into the deeper lore of Halo, I haven't read the novels, I haven't watched the animated series. The furthest I've gone is I watched Halo Nightfall because it came free with the Master Chief Collection, which was a mistake, it wasn't very good. I'm putting this in my qualifiers because there may be some arguments I make that can be countered in the lore, but I think it's unfair to assume that the average gamer will keep up with date with all that stuff. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's start with the part most people will disagree with me on. The Master Chief is one of the most iconic figures in gaming. People who have never played a Halo game in their life still have a high likelihood of recognizing him, and I'm not saying it's without reason. But with all that said, I don't like the Master Chief, and I think he's really quite boring. That's a huge statement, and I'm sure plenty of you are considering turning the video off right now, but let me try and explain. To me, there are two different Master Chiefs. There's the Chief from the original trilogy, and the Chief established in Halo 4. Original Master Chief isn't really a character. He's an avatar for the player who only really exists to be a badass and to do badass things. As the trilogy progresses, especially in Halo 3, he does express a little bit more character. And this isn't the Master Chief I don't like, because, well, there isn't anything to dislike, there isn't anything at all. On counter to that, the Master Chief in Halo 4 is a character, and the game goes to great lengths to humanize him and show a realistic interpretation of how messed up a child trained from birth to be a super soldier would be. This is probably the reason a lot of people like the game so much, but for me it had the opposite effect. I'm not against this kind of character focus. Far from it, I usually love it, but for me it felt like it's such a dramatic departure from the character in the previous games that I seriously struggled to see him as the same person at all. This Master Chief was nothing like the cool collected badass from the previous games. He was a mopey old man traumatized by his past. Again, I'm not saying this is bad. It's a far more realistic interpretation of what this guy would be like. The problem is that suddenly in the 4th game in the series, he has a complete personality 180, and it's completely jarring. And while it might make him a more intricate character, it makes him way less fun to play. We're no longer the galaxy's biggest badass, we're just a sad, confused old man who just kind of walks around and mopes. No one's power fantasy is to be sad and old. I can understand why people love him so much, and in retrospect my comments in my list video may have been slightly too harsh, but I strongly believe that the Master Chief is the weakest part of 343's Halo games, because he no longer feels like the same character, and, more importantly, he's no longer fun to play.
Do you believe the Master Chief succeeded because he was, at his core, broken?
That's why I was so happy when I played Halo 5, and he's barely in the game. Locke and Fireteam Osiris are obviously the main characters of Halo 5, and with the exception of Buck, they're all newcomers to the series. This is okay. In fact, it's good. A fresh set of characters is exactly what this franchise needed in order to avoid becoming stale. The general consensus appears to be that Fireteam Osiris are really boring, and as you may have guessed, I completely disagree. To simplify it, Osiris are just way more fun to play than Master Chief. Their missions feel much more like classic Halo than all of Halo 4 did, but they also feel like actual characters. I think the best way to illustrate this is to look at their interactions with others in the game. Governor Sloan is the AI leader of Meridian, and each member of Osiris has a few interactions with him. Buck treats him with total disrespect. He's older than the rest of the team, and he doesn't care for the Governor's disrespect and denial of Osiris and the UNSC in general.
Wow, pretty quick turnaround from get off my planet to, hey, can you help?
Tanaka, on the other hand, is very patient and understanding with Sloan. Coming from a colony herself, she understands how they work, and that the UNSC isn't welcome here.
Why are we taking the long way down?
Because it's polite. Grew up on an indie colony like Meridian. Folks out here don't take well to the UNSC landing in the middle of town. Tend to see it as an act of aggression.
Vale is simply curious. She's lived her whole life within the UNSC, and doesn't understand why people would want to leave it.
Money going into this. Here's the potential.
Sure your mom was signal intelligence? Sound like a banker's daughter.
And Locke is the most interesting. He treats Sloan with a sort of false respect, a false niceness. He's cooperating, but only because he has to. He'd much rather ignore Sloan altogether.
The soldier you're chasing is down there? Not likely.
I'm asking politely for access to your facility, Governor.
We get another good example of this sort of thing at the end of the game. Cortana taunts each member of Osiris individually, and their response is very telling of each character. Locke responds by telling the rest of the team not to fall for her tricks. He's a spy, of course, he sees through what she's doing and is immune to her taunts. Buck responds with a sarcastic comment. He doesn't take her taunt too seriously. Tanaka doesn't respond at all. She's following Locke's orders, but it's clear a reminder of her past isn't what she wanted, and Vale explodes back at her immediately. She's clearly the most affected by Cortana's taunts.
Jameson Locke, ex-ONI acquisition specialist. Fancy name for a hitman, pilot. But looking at your record, you enjoyed your work. Holly Tanaka. Oh, Holly. How did you pass your psych eval after surviving the glassing of Hanab? I'd have kept you away from sharp objects, never mind Mjolnir armor.
Stay focused, Osiris. Ignore her. Find the grab cores.
Edward Brun, you're an odd one. So much more experienced than the others. And yet you play second fiddle to children. Why is that?
Is she calling me old?
Olivia Vale. The little genius girl who only wanted Daddy to love
That's
her.
Spartan, Vale. And if you're reading my psych eval, you know it takes more than my father to get to me.
And yet...
Don't engage, Vale. Focus on the mission.
Each member of Osiris is very different, and that's good. It breeds diversity and interesting dialogue while you're playing. It's clear they haven't been a team for very long, and they're still getting to know each other. It's a setup perfectly primed to be expanded upon in future installments. I must have been the only person who read that post and was disappointed. Vale, Tanaka, and especially Locke have room for so much more interesting story and character development because we don't know that much about them so far. And it's a shame that 343 are so willing to cave at the expense of what it looks like they had planned. Some of you might be considering me a hypocrite right about now, because I just argued against Master Chief's characterization and for Osiris's characterization, but the main big difference is that big F word. Fun. Halo at its core is a game about shooting aliens in the face. This isn't high art we're talking about, but when we switch to Chief and all his scenes are so dramatic and depressing, well, it's just not fun anymore. I hate Blue Team. Master Chief, I can at least understand why people like him, but Fred, Linda, and Kelly are just so goddamn boring, and they shouldn't exist. Master Chief's whole thing is that he's the last Spartan too, and their existence completely ruins that. The only reason they exist is so that Master Chief's missions can be played co-op without ruining immersion, but it's absolutely not worth it. I strongly believe that they're the main reason Halo 5 is so muddled, and they're the main thing I can't defend. Especially since they don't contribute to the plot at all. I explained in my list video that I don't believe Master Chief was supposed to be playable at all, but 343 got cold feet about leaving out the poster boy. It was a good business decision to be sure, but a terrible narrative one. Just imagine Halo 3 without those 3 missions, and how much more compelling a linear narrative would be. Well, you're not sure why the Master Chief has decided to go rogue. I love the scene at the end between Chief and Cortana, don't get me wrong. It's powerful and establishes perfectly that Cortana is now the villain and there's no going back. But this scene was not worth ruining the entire structure of the game, the entire structure of the Halo universe for. And I'm sure it could have been fit in somehow anyway without the inclusion of Blue Team. The game just feels like Blue Team shouldn't be there. There's no reason that Cortana would keep them in the cryptum or let them proceed when she only cares about Chief. They're the biggest plot hole in the entire series, and they're so boring as characters to boot. If their goal was to show Master Chief as a broken soldier trying to fix himself in Halo 4 because of his Spartan past, and they completely f***ed it by having 3 other Spartan 2s who are perfectly well adjusted. I mean, seriously, can you name a memorable moment from any of them? Which again, is why it's so good that there's only 3 missions with them. I know at least one person who thinks it's heresy that I suggest a main title Halo game that doesn't predominantly feature Master Chief, so I guess I have to defend that viewpoint too. The Master Chief isn't what makes Halo, Halo. Yes, of course he's the poster boy and everyone loves him, but just think about this for a second. In the first 3 games, Master Chief never talks during gameplay. He could literally be replaced by a random soldier and it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever, because Master Chief isn't the memorable part of those games. The spectacle and the amazing action pieces and side characters like Johnson and Cortana are what you remember, not the Chief, because you're seeing everything through his eyes. Halo 4 and 5 both have talking protagonists, but there's a vital difference between them. Master Chief is a character we already know. He's been around for almost 16 years, and as I explained before, he wasn't originally supposed to be a proper fully fleshed out character, so character depth has been unnaturally forced upon him. Locke is a new character specifically designed to be a character, and because of that there's no jarring sense that you're suddenly playing a new character because you know you're playing a new character. You're not constantly comparing old Locke to new Locke because there is no old Locke. If 343 wanted to make a more heavily character driven game, this is exactly how they should have started, instead of forcefully making a character into something that he never was before. That's what I'm trying to get at here. I'm not against the idea of a more character driven Halo game, but Master Chief was the wrong candidate for that, and I find it so apparent that this was a business decision and not one that they actually believed in. Moving away from Halo 5, I think it's no coincidence that the Halo games with the best stories are the ones that Chief is not a part of. Reach, ODST, Halo Wars, even Halo 2, because the Arbiter is the main character, are all character-driven games that benefit from having fully fleshed out characters in the starring roles, unlike Master Chief, who was designed to be a blank slate. I've spent way too long on my debates about Master Chief. Let's move on to the main story of Halo 5, which I think is really good. Once again, a very controversial opinion. At its core, it's an incredibly simple story of an AI taking over and enslaving the galaxy. And don't get me wrong, I say that in a good way. A game about shooting aliens in the face doesn't need an overly complicated plot. The game's a little bit more subtle in its delivery of that plot though. At the start, the game doesn't state it right out. It's almost framed like a horror movie, where other characters are panicking and you don't know why yet.
I sent you my position 3 weeks ago. I told you this was happening.
We'll discuss that in private, Doctor. Palmer.
What has she done? How far has it already gone?
Good work, Osiris.
There's a few interesting settings that are new to Halo games, the first being Meridian, a human colony separate from the UNSC, and San Helios, the home of the elites. I'm a big science fiction fan, and I love all the different ideas of robots taking over, and I think this game puts a unique spin on it by having the robots come from a place of kindness, not malice. The idea that a robot sees the best option to maintain peace is enslavement. It's the kind of cold logic that only an AI could come to. I like that Cortana has become the main villain. Maybe because I hated her so much in Halo 4? John, I'm dying. John, I need you. John, I'm going insane. John, I'm going to let the main villain escape after you just did the longest mission in the game. But more so because it's incredibly interesting from a narrative perspective. She died, and in a way she's still dead, and this is something different. It's a great dynamic for not only the Master Chief, but for the player who has been with Cortana for so long. I also like that this is clearly not supposed to be happening. Unlike Halo 4, where the librarian states that she planned everything, the threat of Cortana and the other AIs feels like it wasn't supposed to happen. This is finally something new and unpredictable. And it's also why I prefer having Locke in the main role, believe it or not. He's not Master Chief. He doesn't have the personal connection to Cortana that the Chief does, and as such he helps guide us along the path that Cortana is a villain more smoothly, because we can see how she treats the people that aren't Master Chief. I know I've stated that I don't think Master Chief should have been playable, but this is one instance where the parallels work very well in the game's favour.
It's so good to see you again, John. So good to see all of you back together as a family. Yes, Vale. Focus on the futile task at hand. You have a war to lose. The last battle mankind will ever fight. Today, I bring peace to these shores.
I've made it clear I don't like Halo 4, so it should come as no surprise that I also don't care that this story doesn't have much to do with the previous game. But let's go through a few of those unanswered threads anyway. Spartan Ops. This game acknowledges that Spartan Ops happens, but also doesn't do much to continue with the plot. I can see why some people would be annoyed by this, but the plot of this game was just way more interesting to me than Glowy Helmet and the Janiski. The Didact. I'm vaguely aware that the Didact was revealed to have lived in one of the comics or whatever, but I really don't care. He died at the end of Halo 4. There's no reason to bring him back, because he's really boring. Chief's character development. I don't even think this one was ignored. At the end of 4, Master Chief is distraught at the loss of Cortana, but he's trying to become less reliant on her help and become more than a machine. In Halo 5, he's still mourning her loss, but instead of taking time off, he's drowning himself in missions. He's doing the only thing he knows. It's tragic, he's failing, but in a way that's why making Cortana the villain is good from his character's perspective. It'll force him to stop mourning and move on. Although, I guess that remains to be seen. I mean, it's still really boring to play, but it's not disregarding the previous game. Marketing. The marketing for this game was incredibly misleading, and I'm not sure why they did that. I'm guessing it was for the twist that Cortana is rogue and not Master Chief to be more exciting, but it just kind of made them look like big old liars. I made a point not to watch anyone else's Halo 5 videos in order to avoid biasing my own opinions, but now I can feel myself regretting that because I really don't know what people don't like so much. From talking with my friends, it seems like my opinions are just inverted from the majority of fans, and I really just don't understand how that is. My hope with this video wasn't to convince anyone to change their opinions, it was more to explain to myself why I like something that most others don't. And I think I've been successful. If you agree with me or disagree with me, I would love to know why in the comments. Until then though, thank you for watching.